Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of Meeting of the Minds. I'm so excited. I've been working on this for a little while, just trying to really get some healers and some business owners that are finding their way through this journey of creating a business and making it successful so that you can see firsthand what our stories are like and what we're doing to kind of work as a community together to kind of make this experience more enriching for each other and for our viewers. So today I have Christine Fisher. Christine, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I have been in the healing practice for decades now. I'm sorry to say that makes me sound really old, but for decades, and I have what I've developed, what I call the Chris Fisher therapeutic experience, and it's just everything that I've learned along the way that I combine into one modality. And so it's been a journey, as you know. So tell me about your journey and about you.
Yeah. Similarly, I've also created a system, like a transformation system. It's called your personal transformation system, and I've plugged it into some programs that I have. But yeah, it's been a long journey. It's for me, it hasn't been decades yet, but I'm working on it. And it's been about a decade, 11 years. So we both went to HMI, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's called Hypnosis and Hip. Go ahead.
Awesome.
No.
Motivational Institute. Good job.
Hypnosis Motivational Institute. And that was quite an experience. What do you feel like? Tell me about your HMI journey. Like, did you go to school in person or did you distance learning?
No, I did the distance and I thought it was a good program. I thought I learned a lot. I don't use it so much right now. I incorporate bits of it into my therapeutic experience. I don't do a whole lot of much of the write out sessions of it. I tend to use bits of it into my. So, how
Yeah.
about
I wonder.
you? Tell me about yours experience?
Oh, it was awesome. Man, I had quite the experience with HMI, and I wonder if there are any people listening who have attended HMI. If you ever attended or graduated from Hypnosis Motivation Institute, let us know in the comments. We'd love
Yeah,
to hear your story. But
right.
yeah, I was in a really, really rough time in my life, a really, really rough time in my life. And I went to someone who did QHHT on me. Have you ever heard of QHHT?
I
Yeah.
have.
I went to someone, I flew down to Florida and I was like, this is going to change my life. I'm going to go get QHHT. And
hmm
what happened was, I mean, it was a really amazing experience, so much that I became a practitioner. But what I realized was how powerful hypnosis is. I mean, have
Yeah.
you have you noticed that in your practice? Like
Mhm.
hypnosis is like life
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to learn, and I was like, this is it. This is it. And so I did distance also, but then I did the where you go for 2 weeks at the end, and I like
Yeah.
did you do that too?
No, I did not.
That was awesome.
I bet it was.
Yeah. So but yeah, me too. I feel like I don't really use, it was like a foundation. It was a really great
Good
foundation.
word. Good
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. But to be someone who digs their heels in and thinks that everything you learn from HMI is going to be where you end up would
Right.
be disappointments. Where did you end up taking it personally?
I like to do a lot of what they taught in there about the journeys and the releasing, and that's how I use a lot of it. Is I just get the person I'm working with in a very relaxed state, and then I like to take them on those journeys of releasing and letting go of the garbage we no longer need, and that's my favorite part of it. I'm not so much working with the stop smoking and
Yeah.
the weight loss and that. But I really like some of the techniques that I've learned along the way.
Hmm.
and implement them that way.
That is
And the journeys are my favorite parts.
that's so interesting because you said something that I don't think I've ever said out loud. Is like, I mean, I got the certification for all of those things, like the weight loss, and I did use it a lot. But I felt like over time it morphed into a very spiritual experience, right, with my
Yes,
clients. Yeah.
exactly.
And I actually,
Exactly.
if y'all don't know, of course you wouldn't know, how I met Chris is because I was looking for someone to help me through some difficult things that I was experiencing. Specifically, I think it was anger for me. I don't know if that's why I came or that's what I found working with you,
Yeah.
but it was it was such a great experience working with you that I reached out to you to come on this
Hmm.
show because I really working with you and doing the journeying and what we haven't even talked about yet is the fact that you were doing emotion code at the time. Do you still do emotion code?
I do. I do. Yeah, it is a wonderful and amazing modality as well because it is so the belief is that we hold the emotions in our body. And Dr. Bradley Nelson has a list of 64 different emotions that we can hold in our body. And he has a broke down in a way that you can easily work your way through it. And his belief is that we store emotions, energy, our emotions are energy, our energy or emotions in our body. And they're usually in the trunk of our body. And it's usually, that emotions will be grapefruit to cantaloupe size, orange size to cantaloupe size.
Oh.
And that if something major happens in our lives, that will pull those up and will surround our heart to protect our heart, which he calls a heart wall. And so you can, using his method, you can go in and release those. He also says that we not only have the energies that impact us that we develop from ourselves, but we can also absorb other people's energies into our bodies, especially if you're an empath. And I'm sure you've talked about empaths before,
Oh
or
yeah.
maybe you want to talk about it a little bit.
Mm.
And we can also get that from our generationals and and I have found out lifetimes. The energies will come in from lifetimes. So it's quite an interesting. I have to quick tell you a little story. I
Yes.
had
We love
a
stories on this channel.
I have massage therapist that I knew that retired and I hadn't seen her for a while. And she come back and I thought, oh wow, retirement is like really good for her. She was like a changed
Mhm.
person. And what I found out was she actually been working with her niece on the emotion code. And it was just like,
Wow.
wow. Yeah, I mean, to just see the difference, it was quite amazing.
Yeah, that reminds me. I mean, there's so much to unpack here, but that reminds me of, well, first, I think before I tell you what it reminds me of, I want to address the empath thing that you just said.
Yes,
So, yeah,
yes.
if you are watching this video and you maybe have heard the term or never heard the term, um, it's important that you learn about that if you're someone who feels very like maybe you've always been called very sensitive or you just feel things on a very deep level, much deeper than a lot of other people seem to. And empaths can come in all different forms because they can be physical empaths, meaning you can feel things in your body. This is getting a little weird.
Yep.
Physically,
Go for it. You're doing great.
we're doing weird today.
I
Um,
love it.
so feel things like sicknesses or ailments like in your body. Whereas there are emotional empaths, which are mostly what there are. That's the majority of people. And that's where you actually have like this sixth sense of being able to feel other people's emotions. And I'm an incredibly strong empath, and my practice is based on my empathic abilities. And that is probably one of the reasons that drew me into you and to emotion code and to journeying, even is because having this empathic thing, once you start exploring it, it's a very spiritual experience because you're
Mhm.
realizing that it's actually another mode of communication, right? If I can understand how you're feeling without you saying a word, then I can react in kind to that, right?
Right.
So the reason I was saying earlier that maybe I had a story or something is when you and I were working together, um, we did emotion code. And again, this is years ago, so I don't really remember everything, but I do remember that I wanted to process things and I wanted to there's processing. People think processing could be sitting and thinking, which it can be, but there's also
Right.
processing emotions out of the body, right?
Right.
I felt like emotion code helped me do that. Specifically, again, it was anger that we were finding in my on my dad's side and back in generations removed. And even with every session, there was more. There was like more places, more to look at, more to see.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed in my environment as we were working was that challenges were coming up for me to exercise what I was processing. Yeah, and that was very challenging.
Beautiful.
It was
Mm-hmm.
it was beautiful after the fact because a lot of healing came from that. But my dad happened to be staying with me for a few months at the time. And so there was a lot of conflict. And I think it was because I was processing stuff that I was being very passive about before.
Mm.
And so now here I am confronting and processing and bringing it up. And he wasn't doing the work. So for him, it was like, what's going on? But it really improved our communication over time. It improved
Nice.
boundaries. It really helped a lot with boundaries. So I'm really grateful to you. And the journeying was just so fantastic. I mean, it's
Yeah.
actually something I would love to learn. Do you teach that?
No, I don't, but he has programs and such on it, and it can be done, like you said, just done distantly and such,
Yeah.
so you don't have to be in the same room. And
Mhm.
so we're talking a lot about the emotions stored in our body. Can you just tell your viewers and such about the body syndromes that we learned through HMI?
I'm not really picking up on any body syndromes, but one thing that really sticks out to me and that I teach in my programs in my practice is secondary gain.
Ah,
Yeah, because it's a
yeah.
it's a function of the subconscious mind, and as you know, like I work with the subconscious mind and mindset, and so it's really important to me to bring what's in the unconscious to the conscious because that's when I feel
Yeah.
like my clients are more successful. When we bring up to the surface what's hiding and blocking them from progressing forward, then they can look at it. And of course, they've got to work around the resistance that's going to come up when they're looking at it. But then
Yeah,
they can look
right.
at it, and oftentimes we do see secondary gain. So,
Hmm.
do you remember secondary gain? Do you want to explain it?
Oh, yeah. No, you're doing fantastic.
Oh,
You go
really?
ahead.
Okay, I'll do it. Um, so secondary gain is something that is developed when a person, um, well, we could go back to like Tony Robbins kind of stuff, where we're talking about what are our core needs, what are core needs as humans. He has six core needs. And so if you have competing needs going on, like let's say I have a need for stability or security, and I also have a need for um, peace and relaxation, and it's these needs are competing. They're both very important to me, then there's going to be some kind of incongruency that pops up out of that where you're going to be fighting yourself for the things that you want because you want
Mhm.
both equally and they're competing against each other. Because if
Right.
you need security and stability, you may have to work very hard or you may have to expose yourself to things that make you feel uncomfortable so that you can move the needle. Well, then the relaxation and the peace part of you is going to be like, no, that's not what I want, but it is what you want. So
Mm.
it's competing. So what we'll see
Right.
is that people will come up with a secondary game so that they can give one a lead over the other. And they don't teach it like this in HMI, but because I practice it, this is what I found. So
Right. Right.
one of the beautiful examples they do give in HMI, which I love, is like a woman who, she's married. They decide that she's going to stay home and raise the children, and he's going to go out and work. And this is what she wants. She wants to be a stay-at-home mom. She wants to raise her children. They have three or four kids. He gets really successful at work. He's gone a lot. She has to cook, clean, take care of the kids and discipline them and make sure the house is being taken care of, do all the food shopping, run all the errands. And at some point, she realizes that she's working like 24/7, right? And he is also working a lot. When he comes home after driving in traffic for an hour, now he's exhausted and he just wants to be relaxed. He wants a clean home. He doesn't want the kids running around all over the place, and he
Mhm.
wants something warm and yummy to eat. And she wants to provide that. But when does anyone ever take care of her? When is anyone ever giving to her? And I don't necessarily think that she thinks that, but there's a something that happens in the subconscious mind where it's like, I need a break. And so a
Mhm.
secondary gain might show up as her getting sick and bedbound for
Right.
a week or two with the flu, and she can't do anything but care for herself. So that's
Yeah.
a beautiful, I think, example of secondary gain
Yeah, it
to
is.
understand. Yeah. So is there anything that you feel like the audience needs to know, or what do you have coming up? What's going on with you now?
One of the things that I have found that's really interesting with my work that I've been doing lately is a lot of the inner child. And we did some of that at
Mhm.
um, MHI, but this goes a whole lot deeper where it's healing the inner child. And I have been finding that some of that even goes back to those past lives and such. And so a lot of that has been working up, finding it, healing it, and then letting people go on their way and finding, each time they come in, it's a little bit deeper or another path where maybe they have that kind of like you're talking about with the fears and such. And some of that is not necessarily from this lifetime, but lifetimes before. And being able to recognize that as you were talking
Yeah.
and healing that can make a huge amount of difference in people moving forward.
Do you have
So
any
that's
stories about, like, I mean, obviously everybody listening, I want you to know that whether we're in a boot camp or a program, or we're having a live conversation, or pre-recorded either. Um, if we tell a story about a client, we are going to change their name. There's no way that
yeah,
anyone talking about, I mean, hearing this will know who we're talking about. And
right, right.
we do that with full integrity. So I'm going to ask you to share a story of an example of that you could give someone who would love to know what that's like, and a real person, changing all the good stuff, and
Right.
no story.
So I had the first one that comes to my mind is I had a lady about my age that came in, and she was constantly having issues with men in her life, for one thing. And she just was never quite settled. And so we found, so I don't usually take, HMI told us how to take a person into regression, and you could take the extra training on it. So what it works best for me is if I do the regression for them, I go in and find it. So just being intuitive, like you were talking earlier, empath, intuitive. And so we went back to this lifetime where she was, it was kind of medieval times. I'm not always just the best with
Mhm.
those,
No, I get that.
um,
Yeah, you never like know
ge
where you
you
are
know,
quite.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But, she had the long dress on and she was great. And she escaped from that. But she just kept living in this loop of her running away. I could see the building in the background, and she was in, I'm sure it was the street then. To me, it kind of looked like an alley, but she just kept running in this loop. She just kept escaping. She just kept escaping. She just kept escaping. And I think that that had a lot to do with how that impacted her life
Oh,
with
yeah.
men
Mhm.
and just that anxiety of never being settled. Just she always had that feeling of, like I say, she just was never feeling settled in her life, that she was always, you know, running from something.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
Yeah,
and
that
if you
that must
go,
good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, 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 go ahead.
And so if you can go back and you can help that person
Mm,
heal, get her out of that loop and
mhm.
help them to move, move on. And it can then help the person in their today life.
Oh my gosh,
So,
so much. I mean, it's so, I think that, this is something I forgot to put on the agenda today, and I really wanted to talk about. When you're talking, my mind is going to all these like places like, oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about. Like, would
mhm.
you be interested in coming back to talk with me again and share some more stories and stuff?
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Absolutely.
But so yeah, that reminds me of a QHHT session where a woman was it was the first one I'd ever done. And
Mm,
the woman, I took her to three lifetimes. And sh it's true, like what you're saying, you can like intuitively enter the space and be experience it with them.
right.
Um, and it was like in England or Ireland or something. She had like fiery red curly hair. So I'm thinking it was
Mm,
like Ireland, but that, that's kind of like ignorant of me to think that. But anyway, so, and she was in a barn and she got raped in the floor of the barn. And I could see her like running and she has this long dress on and she keeps like tripping over it. So that when you're saying that, it's like, wow, that's really weird. Like I experienced something similar to that too, but um there was also this moment where she was have you ever had a QHHT session done?
yes.
Okay, so then we're going to talk about that in a second.
Okay. Okay.
I want to compare stories because wow. Um so she's in a boat, like a banana boat,
Hmm.
and she's on these like you ever been on water that's just eerily still and it shouldn't be,
Yeah.
like ocean water that shouldn't be like
Hmm.
still. So she's like in this water and she's like moving and there's it's black all around her and she's got a movie screen that appears.
Oh.
And yeah, so it was the moment. So when you do QHHT, you do the past lives and then you go transition to the death process, right?
Hmm.
So it
Right.
was in the transition period. So she was telling me she was crossing over. She didn't know that this was what but I knew that this was what it was. And there was these hooded people that started appearing in the boat with her, like dark hoods. Can't see their face. I can't see their face. She couldn't either.
Hmm.
And the screen just pops up on the blackness and it's like a life review. I couldn't
Mm,
see it, but she was describing it to me. I could see the screen, but not the life review, which was very interesting.
okay. Cool.
And then the boat took her to this, like what we, I guess, would call the Hall of Records. I don't really know because I've never
Hmm.
personally been there. But she was in like this library and there was just ceiling everywhere, just books everywhere. So I
Hmm.
told her, go up to the bookshelf and pull out a book. So she pulled out a book and she turns around, there's a bench there. She puts it on the bench. I wonder if I can she puts it on the bench and she's going through it and I'm instructing her. This woman had cancer. And so what I'm instructing
Mm,
her is to rewrite the story of her life to heal herself, right? So
right.
we are
Right.
healing the cancer. And actually she was given a 3-month diagnosis when we met and she ended up living 2 years. And yeah,
Wow.
and we worked together those whole 2 years to the day she died. But so we worked on taking this experience and then we got another book off the shelf and we like took everything and put it in the other book so she could have a clean book,
Uh,
right? And it's just so remarkable, the things that we see, the experiences, the
right.
and QHHT is not like one of my it's not the thing like I sell the most. Like it's like, maybe once a month, but
Uh-huh.
not like regular or anything.
Right. Right.
Um, but it's just so profound, the transformation that can happen. That's what I was going to say. That you were saying, the healing, we can process the healing within in the therapy, right? But have you
Right.
noticed that when you're doing either past life regression therapy or QHHT, that the person spontaneously heals just from having the session period?
It- yeah, usually you'll, and I'm sure you've heard this multiple times. People will leave saying, "I feel lighter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just
Yes.
feel,
Like a
I feel
weight has been
lighter."
lifted off of them. Yeah.
Yeah. They might not know really what it is. They can't put it into words, but that's their main comment is, "I feel lighter."
How about you? Your experience as having QHHT done?
The one thing that I really remember, and you might want to talk about this. We have kind of like pods that we reincarnate with time and time again. I'm sure
Yeah.
you've
Oh,
heard
yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one was I was basically a white slave. I was a young boy. At this huge house, and the slaves were in like the basement with the what was kind of the kitchen then. And I eventually went on to become older, and in that lifetime, this young man, and things started to kind of fall apart, and the homeowners, they aged and stuff. And part of the one thing that I really remember in that lifetime was, and I just shed tears like you wouldn't believe, was I tried to protect the slaves, those that were under, I was one of them, but I just happened to, because of my skin color, I got, extra bonuses for, just because of that, I got, and I just remember just crying because I tried so hard to protect them, give them better surroundings, a better life. And something, I can't remember exactly what it was, I failed. I couldn't keep them safe. And it was so many emotions there. It was just like wild. It was a wild ride, but
How did that translate in your current life? Did it affect you in your current life?
it was just, I am I'm one that tries to be the caregiver. I try to take care of everybody, and I want them to be happy, and I want them to be, and so I think that is a lot of where
Yeah.
that kind of came in. I
Oh
want
my
to protect
gosh, I could talk
everybody. I
about this
want to,
for hours.
yeah.
I don't want to bore
So,
everybody though. If you guys want to hear more about QHHT and our adventures in past life regression therapy or whatever, it's something I don't think I've ever spoken about. So I think it's really fun to talk to somebody who understands
mhm.
and have that conversation. That's really awesome. Um, so where are you going next on your journey?
I am starting to write about all the lessons that I've learned. I've got just a real short story that I'm going to publish on Amazon pretty soon. And it's just about how spirit, I call it following the path of spirit's breadcrumbs. And it's all the little things that spirit has guided me along the way. And then I eventually hope to, put all my lessons that I've learned into a book and put that out there for people.
That's awesome.
So
Very
it's,
cool. I look forward to seeing that.
yeah. And, explain to some of the viewers your boot camps and everything that you've got going on.
Wow, it's big things happening right now. So much has changed. I just went from doing one-on-one and I still see clients one-on-one, but it's a different model now than what we were taught in HMI. A lot of expansion. And so with that expansion, I'm trying to show other people how that works and how I accomplished that because it was really difficult at first and
Mm,
it required some transformation. And so
yeah.
I created a transformation system, a way that I currently use and that I've used on a lot of my clients to move them forward so they can get out of that place at like doesn't work. It's like not working. You know what I'm talking about? Like, why
Right.
isn't this working? I keep trying this and I keep trying that, and they're doing it and it's working for them, but why isn't it working for me? And so I went through that and I've transmuted through that. And so what I'm doing now is offering training, boot camps, master classes that are different sizes, like some are 3 days, some are 5 days, some are challenges, some are just the teaching, just trying to get people to understand what the system is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also have two programs. I'm working on a third one. So programs where people can go and do like the online education themselves and
Great.
learn it on their own at their own pace. And so it's been really, really amazing and exciting, and things are moving so fast. And yeah, I'm just really excited. Just actually, I have a master class coming up this Thursday, where I'm going to teach people my system on how to get like break through that ceiling that they feel like they're underneath, that they can't seem to get
Mm-hmm.
past, and start seeing some movement. We had a really great boot camp like 2 weeks ago, and we saw some really amazing results with the people that showed up
Great.
there. And so I can't wait to keep duplicating that. So I told you I have a surprise for you today.
Ah, I
I
want to
would
say
love,
one thing first. I
yeah,
want to say one thing first.
sure.
I want to tell the people that are watching how much of a change I have seen in you. So what you're doing is working because there's been just a huge change from the time that we met for doing the hypnosis to who you are now.
Yeah.
It's so kudos for you and the work that you're doing. And, so just for people to know it can
Yeah.
be done.
Thank you. I sincerely appreciate that. And it's true because when I met with you is when I was going through I don't
Yeah.
know why
Dark
this
night of
isn't
the soul.
working. Oh, well, for the millionth time. Yeah. If anybody thinks that Dark Night of the Soul happens once, you are incorrect. um, it is a journey, but when I met you, I already had the business, I was already working, I already had clients, but I had reached a ceiling, and I was like, why can't I get more clients? Why do I still have to have a full-time job and do my business? And like that was just unacceptable to me. And I felt like a failure, and I felt like something was wrong with me, or AKA, and I'm sure you can look, we're all business owners. If you're a business owner watching this and you're struggling to get past a certain point, we have all experienced it. It's not like something is wrong with you. It's just that a lot of the things that I teach in my program is a lot of times what we see is everybody's highlight reel. We didn't see the background, what they had to do to get there, and what they had to
Right.
go through, and the changes that they had to make internally to become the person that can receive the kind of thing that they're asking for. And so, which is what I teach. And so, yeah, I wasn't ready. And
Right.
the work was working on me. And once it was done working on me, then it started working for me. And so it's
Yeah. Oh,
about,
beautiful.
isn't that
I
amazing?
love it.
That's from one of my mentors. He's amazing. And, just learning that there is a process and there is a season. And what do I do in that season? What do I do to prepare myself for the moment? Because it's like, you know, one of the examples that I've heard recently is like a stonemason. And the stonemason's got a big stone and he's got his pickaxe and he's like, trying to crack the stone. And he may hit it, 10 times, 15 times, 20 times. His arm gets sore. He starts feeling defeated. He starts feeling like this is never going to happen. I
Mhm.
got to take a break. This is too much. Similar to what business owners and entrepreneurs go through when they're creating their business. The problem is that a lot of people, they get sore, it hurts, they get defeated, and they say, I'm going to put the axe down for 5 minutes, and they never return to it.
Mm.
But the people that I want to work with, because I don't work with everybody, the people that I want to work with are the people who have to pick that axe back up. There is like no choice. They can't ignore it. They've tried to do other things, and they cannot ignore it. And the reason I like those people is because those people are willing to do whatever it takes to create change
Yeah.
in their life. And you have to have that kind of desire. So anyways,
Mm-hmm.
this guy, he's like, he picks the axe back up, he gets back at it, 80 times, 90 times, 98 times, 99 times, 100 times it breaks. And my question to my students is, did it break because that 100th time he hit it so hard, or did it break because he hit it 100 times and every single time made that last hit cause the break?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to give up. You always want to stay in there, and you always want to push yourself past the difficult times. And usually pain doesn't mean stop. It means you're almost there. Keep going.
Love it.
So I would love, you don't have to answer me now. You might want to think about it. I would love to have you as a guest speaker at my next 3-day boot camp, whatever I do next, maybe a week or two.
I
Okay.
would be honored.
Well, it was so great to have you on this first episode. We just like mile marker here.
Yeah.
And I hope to have you back.
Yes. Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
everyone. We're going to close this out and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.
Bye.